So this whole Erica Brown, Eric Sparks controversy that has blown up on social media and media at large pretty much encapsulates everything that is wrong with the litigation process, with politics, with social media, and with the media at large in today's day and age. For those of you who have been living under a rock, this is what happened. Eric Sparks is paying for some items at a Publix. He notices Erica Sparks, who has more than the 10 limit items in the 10 limit item express lane. He gets a little aggrieved by this, and on his way out, he asks a public associates what can be done about such egregious conduct, having too many items in the express lane. And the Publix associates say, we have a corporate policy of not confronting clientele, which is a pretty good corporate policy in general. And instead of just leaving and going on with his day, Eric decides that this is an issue important enough that requires confrontation, goes back to see Erica Sparks, not knowing that she's 9 months pregnant, and confronts her over the issue. How dare you be in the express lane with 20 items when the express lane limit is 10 items? Erica Sparks gets offended and aggrieved and says, I'm 9 months pregnant, how dare you do this to me, this is terrible, and a confrontation ensues between the two of them, the audio of which we don't have and we probably never will have because the surveillance footage does not have audio to it, but a confrontation ensues. That results in Eric, by his own admissions, calling Erica a lazy bitch. And then they go on with their day. Erica, who is aggrieved by this whole situation, goes on to Twitter to make this otherwise private spat between two individuals at a checkout counter of a Publix national attention. In her Twitter, she posts that it was something of a racist attack, that the individual told her to go back to where she came from, a la certain chants that we've been hearing in politics and in social media these days. Eric denies this and brings up the fact that he is both Cuban and a Democrat, denies ever having said any such thing, and apparently on his Facebook and social media has been a staunch criticizer of certain chants and certain people, and denies ever saying it. Admits that he called her a lazy bitch, but that was only after she apparently aggressed him when he confronted her over this issue. This is how litigation starts. This is how fights start. They start over what ought to be ignored by and large, and the situation just escalates one step after another step, response, counter-response, until something is done that can't be taken back, that blows the dispute into an entirely new level. And I mean, from a practical perspective, this could have stopped at any point. This should have never started to begin with. Once it started, it could have stopped. And in litigation, you have the exact same sort of process where things don't have to start. When they start, someone should come in and cool it down. It can stop here. It can stop here. It can stop here. But sure enough, litigation occurs when it gets to a point where something is done that cannot be undone, and then it becomes uncompromisable questions of principle for both people, as is the case in this particular situation. And it reminds me of another thing that we were talking about in a previous video, actually in the Jussie Smollett, the Osundara brothers suing the Jussie Smollett's attorneys for defamation and false light. And we were talking about in that video the differences between defamation and false light. Defamation is making a public statement about someone that is in fact false, that harms their reputation, etc., etc. False light is making a public statement about someone that might be in fact accurate and, relatively speaking, correct, but imply things that are not true and false. And so looking at this Erica Brown and Eric Sparks dispute, we have a situation where there can be arguably defamation, and apparently Eric is shopping around for attorneys now from what I read in recent posts, but we have what can arguably be defamation if, in fact, Eric said nothing similar to what Erica said he said, and in which case you can have an action in defamation because there's obvious prejudice that is resulting from what Erica said. Eric said if he didn't, in fact, say anything along the lines of go back and then fill in the blank. Flipping it around, and let's just say that Eric said something along the lines of go back to the other lanes that are not the express lanes. So let's just say he said go back in that sort of context. Purely hypothetically, we have no audio, we'll probably never know. But let's say he said go back to the non-express lanes where you could put 20 items in which case what Eric is saying is not necessarily false in substance, but false in implications. And here we might not have a case of defamation, but we might have a case of false light. And it's a very interesting distinction because in the video that I did on the Osundara brothers, I couldn't come up with a perfect example of false light. This could be pretty close to a perfect example of what would qualify as false light in states that allow for claims on the basis of false light in addition to defamation. false light being, yeah, I said go back, but I said go back to the other lane. I didn't imply anything about what you suggested I implied, versus defamation if, in fact, Eric says, I never said anything of what you said I said, and this is defamatory. And the other thing that this highlights, and this is something that we predicted after the Oberlin decision, that Eric is now shopping for an attorney to sanction these public statements suggesting of racism. Eric, who is Cuban, takes particular offense to accusations of racism, given his Cuban heritage, and given the fact that he's a Democrat and apparently an outspoken Democrat as well. The Oberlin decision, and some of the pundits were saying, this is going to create a market for attorneys and plaintiffs who are going to want to go after people making false public accusations of racism. And in a way, it's sort of like, call it a fringe benefit or like a good outcome of the decision, in that it's going to create a market for plaintiffs and for lawyers to pursue these types of claims, where prior to the Oberlin decision, there may not have existed such a litigious or legal market to pursue those types of claims. And it's a good and a bad thing, creating markets in law. I mean, it creates the capitalism and the exploitationism that we see to some extent from the litigation process itself in the States. I mean, we typically, especially in Canada, consider the U.S. to be a litigious society run amok, where people sue for hundreds of millions of dollars, and we criticize it and we complain. But the flip side is, you come to Quebec, where bodily injury is worth nothing, to the point where people don't even have the same sensitivities, the same sort of guards that they would have in the States in terms of their own conduct to prevent situations of negligence that might lead to personal injury, because the penalties are so minimal, people are insured, and it's not the same type of society where you don't have the same types of fears and phobias of not putting up a wet floor sign where there's a wet floor. So you have both extremes here. And while people might say that the U.S. Litigation system is sort of exaggerated and over the top and egregious, there is some fringe benefit to having that litigious mentality, in that it does, in theory and in practice, cause people to watch what they do, to be a little bit more cautious in what they do, and a little bit more cautious in how they deal with others. And the Oberlin decision set the precedent that there will be a healthy legal market for pursuing these types of claims of false public accusations of racism, to the point where now people in the future might have to be careful before making those types of accusations and allegations. And we're looking at a situation here now with Erica Brown and Eric Sparks, where we might be living through the actual practical ripple effects of that Oberlin decision. Okay, that was my rant for the day. No time to edit today because we are going ziplining at Zip Trek in Mont Tremblant. Going to do a vlog there because they have offered us 2 tickets to go ziplining, me and my daughter. We're going to see if we actually get down the zip line. Apparently it's 1.6 kilometers long. It's the second longest in North America, or second longest in Canada, regardless. That's the vlog for today. If you like my content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. My new subscriber count has taken a radical dive on YouTube. I don't know what it can be, I don't know what can account for it, and I don't care to hypothesize. Just gonna plug away, grind hard. But do, if you like my videos, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share my channel. That's how I can grow much better. If you want the Vlog Dog shirts, link is gonna be below. And now you know your vlog. Peace out.